The Rippaverse cope session has officially begun. Actually, it probably begun a couple days ago, but I'm just now getting around to this. So in today's video, we're going to look at a couple of posts from Eric July, a post from Gothix, and this is in response to the video where Gothix, or one of the clips where Gothix goes off about people offering criticism to Eric and Eric not being able to take criticism and sort of like brushing it off. What now? What now is what she said in the video. And so people are saying, fans of the Rippaverse were saying, hey, we would like it if Eric could take more criticism. And what does Eric do when he starts getting criticized about Gothix? He does what he always does, which is pushes back and doesn't actually accept any of the criticism because he never can. He's a hypocrite. Full stop. In every freaking facet of his business, he is a hypocrite. He has been from the beginning. That's part of why people like making fun of him, is because of the hypocrisy in his company. So Inlord here is talking about Gothix. It says the lady who admitted she's not a comic book person, speaking for a comic book company, don't be so smarmy, it's disingenuous. Now this comes from a series of videos from a live stream where Gothix failed in every way possible. I did a video on this a couple of days ago, so you can go and check it out, but she failed every way possible for coming across as someone who has any knowledge on the Rippaverse, let alone the comic book industry, on the Rippaverse. She mentioned Gooding, I think. That's the only thing she mentioned, and she didn't even know where she didn't even know where to tell people to go and buy the merch she was wearing. And she's a video spokesperson. So then Eric, as always, comes through with a deflection response that doesn't actually address the real issue. He says, Vanessa was not brought in to be knowledgeable on the entire industry. Such a position does not exist here. She was brought in to be knowledgeable on, all right, I'm not an English major. Like, I don't know for sure, but I think it's supposed to be in space two. She was brought in to be knowledgeable, not into, but I don't know. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. On the Rippaverse and what it does best, and what she does best, communicate, produce video content. She's going to be great at it. And then he follows that up with, as with anything we do, some will pretend as we're doing something abnormal. Nearly every company worth anything has spokespeople and content producers. But you know what those companies don't do? You know what the people in those positions don't do, Eric? They don't go on a live stream and make themselves look absolutely foolish to the people who are customers or potential customers or past customers of the Rippaverse. That's what they don't do. You don't see that happen. So outside of the fact that she doesn't have any comic book knowledge, she also did a bunch of stuff that was pretty egregious, like saying that she doesn't collect comics because they're too expensive. You don't want somebody that's promoting your comic books, some pretty expensive comic books. Yes, you have some that are pretty expensive, saying that is a hobby that is too expensive for them to do. You don't want that. That's not what you want out the gate. You also don't want them wearing the merch there as a representative of your company and then not knowing where to tell people to go to buy that merch. That's what you don't want. You also don't want a loose cannon who says that her job as a spokesperson for a company is to have her own opinions and ideas outside of what that company is asking her to do. Could you imagine what that would look like for Marvel if the spokespeople for Marvel came out and gave their own personal opinions about anything and everything while being the spokesperson for Marvel? Do you understand? Like, if that happened, Eric and Az would trash it. They would go crazy and go after it, just as anybody in this community would do. Because your job as a spokesperson is not to come in with your own ideas and opinions. It is to come in and talk about the things that are vetted by the company that you were speaking about. You are literally a spokesperson. They did not hire you to come in with your own fucking ideas to promote their content. They want you to come in and promote their content the way they want you to. That is why you were hired. So is she a spokesperson? Is that what she is? Because that's not what a spokesperson does. A spokesperson isn't somebody who goes off and screams about having their own ideas when they are literally there to promote the company. That in itself doesn't make any fucking sense. But I wouldn't expect any less from you, considering that she was actually hired to just go out and be a front for you because you don't want to do it anymore. You need somebody that's going to fight and argue with people because you don't want to do it anymore. And here is the proof. So this is Gothix reposting an old video where she is using her own personal interactions with trolls and detractors, whatever you want to call it, where she's using that as an example of how she is going to be as the spokesperson for the Rippaverse. Let that settle in for a second. So if you're the spokesperson and you're just there to make video content promoting the Rippaverse, why would you be engaging with people at a level where they would be arguing with you? Why would you be doing that? That doesn't make any sense. And let's see what she posted here. Hello, new followers. I appreciate you being here and supporting me on our new venture. Which, there we go. That is the perfect way to address. That's a perfect way to address it. But as with anything, when it comes to the Rippaverse, it has to spiral into something negative or shit stirring, because that is the way they run their business. Likewise, I equally appreciate the obsessive negativity in my mentions. Most people have to pay for this level of visibility, and y'all are doing it for free. So let's unpack that for a second, because this proves so many things for me. Number one, if you are someone who believes that all press is good press, if that's truly the way you feel about it, then your morals and ethics come into question, in my opinion. Because if you're someone who is actually out here as a Christian trying to advocate for those kinds of values, you would not assume that all negative interactions would be positive for you. That is not the way you would look at it. That's why I've talked about people like Melanie Mack, John F. Trent, John Della Rose, all of these guys, they come across as opportunistic Christians. They do not represent the values of what you would see in people that are actually doing Christian works. So they're using it as a tool for them in this space. So she's willing to go, you know what, if you want to talk shit about me, that's fine. I'm just going to continue to do what I'm doing and keep acknowledging you. Why are you acknowledging them? If you're the spokesperson for the Rippaverse and Eric wants to rise above because he's moving differently and that's what he wants out of you, why are you fighting with people in the comments? Why? It's crazy. Let's look at a long post from Eric and then we're going to wrap this up. Again, the hypocrisy here. This is so crazy, and he tells on himself when he posts stuff like this. If I can chime in on this conversation, what we are seeing is the old guard and entitled realize they no longer have control of the industry. Means have been decentralized and nobody, veteran or not, can dictate who can create. Independent does not mean guy, gal that worked in the mainstream for decades finally doing their own thing. So as you can see here, it seems to me in the very beginning of this paragraph, the entire reason he is doing this is to get back at someone. I don't know if it's the guys from the comic book industry that are doing it independently. I don't know if that's what it is. If he thinks that there's some sort of individual people within that space that he needs to prove a point to, it doesn't seem to me like this is coming from somebody that really just wants to make comic books. This statement feels to me like it's somebody that is specifically doing this to prove a point. That's just my 2 cents. They treat indie like it's a cabal or mafia that gets to decide who is legitimate and who gets to create. They treat it like it's some elitist club. They treat it like it's a fixed pie, which reeks of socialistic, communistic nonsense and lack of economic understanding. That's a lot of stuff, man. In other words, they think because someone supports another creator, less people will support them. Well, dude, you just did an entire paragraph kind of trashing other creators, right? If you truly believe that they were not a threat to your existence as an independent comic guy, you wouldn't have even posted that first paragraph. You would just be doing your thing and moving along. But the conflict is what brings people in. And you realize that, and so you're milking that. You're milking every single udder you can when it comes to that. You're trying to hit all of them. This is the opposite of independent. That is why they tried to shift to this shit. That's why they tried to shift to this quality debate when they were outperformed by young talent. And that quality debate comes from the same line of thinking, only the pros or the anointed get to decide what's good and what's not. The truth is, only the market decides, and once it speaks. It does not care about how hard you work, how long you work in the mainstream, or who co-signs your efforts. So again, none of this sounds like somebody that's passionate about making comic books. I'm just going to be straight up, 100. It doesn't sound like he's passionate about making comic books. It feels to me like he is doing this because he wants to get back at them. At some point when he was doing this, someone stood in front of him and made him feel like he wasn't good enough to be successful. And so every move he has made since starting this business has been to stab it back to whoever or whatever that is. He doesn't like the idea that people that have actually put in the hard work, the artists, the colorists, the writers, the editors, all these people that put in the hard work, he doesn't like the idea that they like the prestige they have from being veterans in the industry. And so he wants to come along and skip over all of the hard work, jump over all the hard work, leap over it like Superman, like leap over that hard work and jump to the end with doing the least amount of work. It's like work smarter, not harder shit. The only problem, the only issue with this for Eric is that he didn't go the extra mile to make sure the people that were doing the work for him were doing good work. His early stuff is littered with mistakes. We're not talking about stuff like whether you like the art, whether you like the coloring, whether you like this, that, and the other. We're talking about things like spelling errors, issues with the way the comic is laid out, using assets and then lying about it to your supporters, lying about it to your customers, coming out and making it seem like you don't want people to collect your comics to use in the secondary market. There's a lot of things you did with this business that have led you to where you are now. And a lot of that comes from ego and lack of being able to listen to criticism, which is exactly why when you reacted to the Gothic stuff, people are looking at that and going, see, this is what we're talking about. This is the kind of stuff we're talking about. Ultimately, all of this boils down to the fact that Eric July cannot take criticism. He wants to fight with people on social media. He's made a point of saying he's not going to do it anymore, but because he can't do it, he needs to find somebody that can do it at the level that he would do it. And so he has hired Gothics. Not only that, but I've heard, this is allegedly, that he is friends with her husband. I don't know if that's true or not. But either way, it just seems like another situation where Eric is doing something specifically because he knows it is going to cause controversy. Because we're seeing his channel, the numbers are dropping on his channel. He's losing subscribers. His views aren't that great. His comic books, despite them talking about it doing so well, are not really breaking any ceilings anymore. We're not seeing that. And we're going to have to see where it goes for the rest of 2025. I have no idea. Again, I don't necessarily want his business to fail. Like, I'm not advocating for that. Like, I'm not saying boycott Rippaverse, don't buy it. If you like his shit, you can buy it. But all I'm saying is that the criticisms that people have about Eric July when it comes to his business are valid criticisms. He has to decide how he wants to take them and what he would use these criticisms to apply to his business in a way that works for him. This reactionary stuff that he's doing, the stuff that Gothics is doing, the way they're behaving to fans' complaints, and we're not talking about people like me. You don't have to fucking listen to me. I don't buy Rippaverse products. I'm just talking about the drama. So you don't have to listen to me talk about you. Like, if you want to buy the comic books, buy them. If you don't want to change something that I'm telling you would be helpful, you don't have to do that either. But you have legitimate customers of yours going into streams with people like Gothics, who is making them feel like they don't want to be a part of your brand. And the problem is, instead of listening to that, you continuously take the side of people who do not have your best interest. People that don't care about comic books aren't going to care about your fucking company.